Wow, Dave's definitely got a cooler background than us. I've got like kids' toys behind me somewhere.
I got a Harley and a nice bike.
That's awesome. Are you at your place or are you on the road?
I'm at the ranch.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
I don't live here.
You live close though, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, hey Dave, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I'm sure you're busy, and so I'll kind of run down the list. I don't think we need much introduction for Mr. Castro, considering we're all CrossFitters on here. But Dave, on here you have the Masters Fitness Collective. We're the ones hosting the Masters competition in Fort Wayne in August, and then you also have two other affiliate owners. So myself, Bobby Petrus, I'm here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've owned an affiliate for 8 years. I just paid my dues yesterday. Yeah, excited about that. And then you've got Eamon Coyne. He's the guy waving there. He's a 9-year affiliate owner. Eamon?
Yes, we're in our 9th year.
All right. He owns CrossFit Paulus with Tim Paulson in Ithaca. Jamie Free, you're what, 4 years affiliate owner?
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, Jamie's down in Nashville. And then Taylor Hastings, the gentleman with the man bun, he runs my affiliate at Matt Apple. Misty Wallen, who you can't see on here, she owns CrossFit Prowse and is helping us with the competition in Fort Wayne. And Prowse is 8 or 9 years, Misty.
Prowse is about 7.5 years, and we've owned it about 2.5.
Okay. And then Heath Moody, he's a 2 times Masters Games competitor, not an affiliate owner. But the other affiliate owners that couldn't make it, I think I looked, they're in the 7-year range, and then we've got a couple of new ones that are helping us host the competition. So really cool. But we, obviously we're Masters related, so this is going to be a Masters related podcast. I'm sure maybe not your most favorite topic, but what you get stuck with today. But I thought we'd kind of go through the games, the Open, talk about sanctionals, some of the athlete stuff. Obviously, we want to talk to you about our championship that we're hosting here in Fort Wayne. And then outside of the Masters division, we thought we'd love to hear your thoughts, your current thoughts on the state of the affiliates as it relates to what's ongoing, and then talk about some of the really cool CrossFit initiatives, for us as affiliate owners that maybe we can get more involved in. So if that sounds good to you, we'll get rolling.
Sounds good.
Awesome. What are your, I guess, with COVID, shaking everything up, what are your current thoughts, on the games? And is that something that, you and your team are fluidly working towards trying to figure out for this year?
Yeah, we're actively looking at it as a collective group, leadership team, our games team, including Eric. It's a big deal right now. I mean, especially as COVID's ramping up, it's not subsiding, it's growing in a lot of places. So it's something we have to address, and we are looking at internally. There's a big possibility that the games don't happen, but we're not there yet. We're still pushing forward and fighting to make sure that they do happen. But that is a reality. And, when doing something like this, you have to look at all possibilities. And I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a possibility, and a possibility that we're not taking into consideration. I hope, I believe, and I hope that the games do happen.
And Dave, I feel for you because, how this kind of came about for us was, you guys made the decision to, and rightfully so, cut the teams and the teens and the Masters out. And, I kind of had the idea, said, in Indiana, things are just a lot, we're like in a nice little bubble here. We haven't had the uptick. We don't have as much travel happening here. And, I kind of had the idea, say, hey, what if we could host the age group qualifier so they have a way to close out their season? And obviously through that, we've now kind of had this new uptick in COVID here. And obviously we're kind of questioning, whether we can pull this off or not. And we decided to take a really clinical approach to it. So in my day job, I manage and operate assisted living communities throughout the country. So we have about 40 under our umbrella. My sister and I own the company together for a little over a decade. And so we've really taken this like clinical approach, but we don't have to deal with the international aspect. And I have to assume is that your biggest challenge, like having the international athletes come and compete?
Let me back up for 1 second and just say, had we from the get-go included the teams and the athletes and tried the teams and the age group athletes, there's no way we would have been able to pull this off. So I think the only reason we're even at the point, and I know you weren't addressing that, but I want to talk about it. I know the only reason we're even able to be at this point is because the field is so small. And in some of the early discussions, including at least a limited amount of teams was on the table, but even that would have been prohibitive. I'm glad we cut that out. And the age groups, cutting the age groups out, that's such a large field and so many people, it was the right thing to do. And in doing that, we honestly didn't expect anybody to step up to fill that gap, as you guys have, as Froning tried to do. I think they're pulling out of theirs, or they might, because it's such a chaotic time. I mean, we're in a position poised to do it where we have a full, it's part of our company, it's part of our DNA. We have a team that runs the games, and we're trying to do it in this compromised environment. But to think or to put it on to ask the community to do the same, to take it on, that was never our intent. So that people like you stepped up, that's cool. But you guys are stepping into a shitstorm, essentially.
Yeah. Well,
as you guys are learning.
Yeah, no, we do. I mean, and I'll tell you, one of the things, because of the business I'm in, we were able to get the rapid response test kits months and months ago. I mean, so I've got 2,500 employees that we've been using them on in our residence, and they work really well. And we're partnered with a lab that does mouth and nasal swab testing. And so, one of the cool things that we have is when the athletes come to check in on Thursday, I've got my clinical team that's going to test everybody. And that's the most important thing, is because you have to have a baseline to know that everybody's negative. Because if you don't have a baseline and you only test 80%, that 20% can have it. And so I feel like we've done a really good job of starting with that and have some really strict, things in place. And we've had to take some things out of the competition that I think you normally have, like weird things, Dave, like everybody's got to have their own chalk, right? Like you can't share your own chalk. Like I've got a team of volunteers that Taylor's heading up that all they're going to do is clean between, the change outs and things like that. But everyone has been pretty cool. We've got this mask mandate. Everybody has to wear a mask except when they're competing. We've had some flack about that, but I think for the most part, people really just want some sense of normalcy. And if we can help do that, then, we'll take some shit for it. Right.
Well, good on you guys for stepping up to the plate to take this on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Well, I wouldn't either, actually. I've never, really run a competition. We're all on the athlete side of things. But, like for guys like Heath that we're going to miss out on the games, we felt compelled to step up, and, we've had a good response. So I guess
I want to say on the games and this discussion, when we first decided to go forward with the significantly reduced field, the first option we looked at was just the 20 men and the 20 women who qualified through the Open. And I was set on that, and I really liked that idea. But then Greg actually said, no, let's include the sanctional invites. So I kind of pushed back and said, no, I don't think we should expand the field a little too much. And he really wanted to include the 10 sanctional invites to expand it to the 30 and 30. Interestingly, some of those sanctional people have been very vocal, not people, but a lot of the athletes against Greg. And I just want it to be known that for some of them, the only reason they're going to be competing this year is because he wanted the sanctional athletes to be included. But frankly, I didn't. I just thought the top 20 men and top 20 women was enough. And really it's because how do we get this small field who really does represent the best in the world to the games in this crazy COVID environment and not put ourselves in too compromised of a position. An additional 10 people isn't too big of a deal, but it does add numbers, you know?
Have you thought of doing kind of like what the NBA has done, where you can like get everybody there for a while and keep them in the bubble? And
We're totally doing that. I mean, I don't know. I guess we haven't put much of it out, but that's exactly what we're doing. We're creating our own little bubble, and we're shuttling the athletes around. They're getting tested twice when they first show up, once immediately, and then a few days later. The hotel is part of the bubble. The competition venue is part of the bubble, and we have teams that are taking a huge look at the safety element of this and creating an environment. And that's why also we can't have fans, obviously.
Sure.
But the safety aspect of it in regard to COVID and the stuff we're doing is similar to the NBA, but not identical. But we're taking lead from a lot of the best practices in some of the major sports and major divisions out there.
Cool.
Yep.
So,
Hey,
go ahead,
Dave. So top 20 athletes from the Open. Do you think you're going to find the fittest in those top 20 athletes for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's why. The fittest historically are there, meaning Matt's in the list, Tia's on the list, and then a handful of other people who are, representative of the best in the world. I do not doubt for a second that we will crown the fittest alive if we just had the top 20 from the Open. Arguably, I don't know all the sanctional invites off the top of my head, but arguably I could add that, they don't even strengthen the field that much relative to who's in the top 20 men and women.
So Dave, I got a question. When you're making comments like you made the other day, like, I don't think Matt can win. I mean, is that your real opinion, or are you just kind of stoking the fire with that stuff?
Oh man. So there's a promotional aspect to all of this, right? I mean, in one regard, I'm in a promoter role, especially with my my reach in the community. So yeah, I'm fucking with him. I'm fucking with the people. I'm fucking with the community. I'm trying to get some discussion going, but I also do believe he can lose, and that is the truth.
Yeah.
I do believe that I'm not as blown away with him as a lot of other people are in his reign. I think it can quickly come to an end, and I do believe this year. So at one point to one degree, I am saying that like, yeah, I'm fucking with everybody, but to another degree, I really do feel that way. I do believe that
he's not unbeatable.
Yeah, exactly. He can get exposed. He can get exposed, and maybe this is the event to do that.
So
Who do you feel that guy is?
If we were drinking beer, I would buy you another beer right now, Dave, because I feel like you're giving us some gold at the moment. Our stock is rising. So whatever you're drinking, keep drinking that.
Oh,
I just want to know who you think
I'd
that.
love to see this Russian dude make it out. Roman Krenikov won. I'd love to see him in the field and see what he can do. We've talked about him for years, and he's never been able to come out and represent. So if we can get him out, that would be great. For years, I thought Vellner could be that guy. I'm starting to think less and less that Vellner is that guy. But, I don't even have it assigned to a person, to be honest with you. I just conceptually see it. Age catches up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Age and the beat down and the years of training. And I mean it, like when I look at his Instagram and I see him traveling all around the world and doing all this shit for Nike and doing all these events, like all that shit catches up to you and it changes you. Yeah. So that's kind of where this sentiment comes from. It's not even pointed to an individual. It's just pointed to a concept that it's possible. And I do believe this could be the year.
So Vegas calls and says, Matt versus the field. Are you taking the field?
That's a great question. Well, here's the thing. I would never take a bet like that without like diving into it heavily and really looking at who the field is. So I'm not going to answer that question right now.
Good thing you got, the dude that programs the games.
Yeah.
Interestingly, well, let me answer this. Let me say this. I was having this discussion with Sevan the other day about programming. And I don't program for athlete. I don't program for, let me say it this way. I don't program for any athlete that exists right now. I program for the ultimate CrossFitter. I program for the ultimate fittest man and woman alive. And I program for the person that's going to win every single fucking event. And that would be the most well-rounded, complete CrossFitter in the history of CrossFit. The one who shows up to the games and doesn't lose a single event. That's who I'm programming for. Interestingly, I'm looking around. You guys see me looking around. This is my room where all the programming is. So like I have walls with all of it in front of me, and I'm kind of just looking around. And that's what I'm looking at is the programming. But that's who that's who I'm programming for is this ideal CrossFitter, the one who doesn't ever lose. And then from there, it just trickles down. Then from there, people have the ability to express how fit they are through that programming and through the weekend. Interestingly, Matt, through the last 4 years, has obviously proven very dominant, and he has very few flaws. And when he is exposed, he's very good at cleaning it up and coming back. And the next year, it's not a problem. And that's what it's about. I've always said for years, if you have to point to the programming, then you're not at the top. If you have to say, okay, well, I didn't make it because of the programming, or I won because of the programming, you don't belong there, because you have to win regardless of the programming. And you look at people like Matt Frazier, Tia at this point, Rich Froning, they have so many wins across so many different events. And that's what a true elite CrossFit athlete is. You look at others who have wins, but then when you look at like, oh, well, they won at kind of an event that was biased towards endurance, but then all other events, they don't really win as much. You can see people's flaws and people's weaknesses by where they won and how they won.
Yeah.
And that statement and what I'm saying there only applies if it's truly fair and balanced programming that tests work capacity across broad time and modal domains. If it's truly balanced CrossFit programming, everything I just said there is thrown out the window if it's like, let's say from years ago, CrossFit football programming, where everything's just really heavy and short and fast. Then you have to bias towards that to do exceptionally well.
Yeah. So talk about if, I think we heard you talk that the Open's likely going to go back to its like normal kind of spot, and maybe that the season's going to go back to what you deem as normal. What's that mean for masters? What's it mean for sanctionals? Is that going to change a lot? Or you've not figured that out yet?
There's a lot of discussion going on. There's a lot of answers that haven't been finalized, or a lot of things we haven't made decisions on, but there's a lot on the table. We're taking input from a lot of people, pairing everybody. It's going to be very different, that's for sure, next year. But we haven't committed to what very different looks like yet. And it'll be better. I believe that for sure. What it looks like for you guys at this point, there's a lot of discussion on that too. And we haven't committed to anything yet. We're just taking inputs and we're discussing things and looking at formats. But I will say this, the Open is very likely going to be in February and March next year. And it makes so much more sense there, not even for historical reasons, not even for like, because it's how we used to do it, because that answer isn't always the right answer for why to do something, because it's how we used to do it. No, but why? Why did we used to do it that way, and why was it effective? And one of the things I really believe in for the Open happening in February and March, is the fact that it strengthens and supports the affiliates and what they're able to do and what they're doing in this notion of, you get people who come back to the gym in January and they want a new year, they want to be a new, better expression of themselves. So they hit the gym in January. Well, now as an affiliate owner or as a trainer or as a coach, you give them something to shoot for. Hey, now you're coming into the gym to improve yourself, but also in February, we have this online platform and online community competition where you can represent, your gym, yourself, your community, and it gives them a goal. And that's what I like about it in February, that February-March timeframe. So I think we're going to get it back there.
You literally just described how I found CrossFit. I was doing some mixed martial arts, and turn over the new calendar year, right? New year, new you, whatever they say. And I walked into CrossFit gym January, was doing the open in March, and yeah, it was great.
And that's exactly the essence of what we're trying to recapture is what he just described there. And I think it's a powerful thing. And plus, at this point, trying to do it in October again, as crazy as everything is right now. I mean, October, frankly, right around the corner. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, even by February, we still might be in all of this COVID fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
But even for sure in October, we will be. So pushing it off a little is better.
I will tell you something as an affiliate owner and an athlete, I guess, too. The one thing, and I'm not by any way means saying bring back regionals, because I actually love the sanctionals. But I have to say, like, the open for my box in particular lost a little luster when regionals went away, because we put a team in, I think, 4 years in a row. And that was, even if we didn't make it, that was like such a rallying point for the gym. And I don't know what that could be outside of regionals, but it would be really cool if there was something a little extra to get everybody rallied, because we had people that had no business probably, they probably weren't going to do the open, and they were the first ones there to like, hey, I'm going to cheer on Mike Smith because he could be our sixth scorer.
That's another piece of the magic that we need to capture. And that was totally lost through all of this. And frankly, that's the inclusion of the affiliates. And in going forward, we're going to recapture that. There's some ways, but like the affiliates will be brought back into the competition fold. And I'll tell you what, the affiliates will be represented at the CrossFit Games.
That's cool. Forward.
In terms of teams, it's not just.
How it used to be the affiliate cup, right? And now it's like the professional teams cup. I mean, that's what
it'll become the affiliate cup again. I promise you that.
I like that.
So
maybe I shouldn't promise it, because if I don't deliver on that, then I'm.
Can we limit the amount of people that are allowed to move to Cookeville per year?
I mean, they have so many good people there, anyways, who live there.
I know. I'm joking. No, that's cool.
In regards to that, like expanding that and making sure that, obviously it's more of an affiliate game. Are you thinking about re-expanding from Masters of 10 to Masters of 20? Being that I was one of the ones that got cut from that. I'm more interested in obviously that side of things and kind of seeing if you're going to expand that field a little bit.
It's all going to look very different next year. So even that answer, I mean, like I don't have a good answer to that, because I think there's such bigger picture ideas that are being looked at and talked about and thought about that's kind of not even a discussion point.
Cool. Yeah, fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Very cool. So, obviously there's a lot going out on the table. One of the things, Dave, that's come up a number of times in our discussions, and I know you don't in the past hadn't done the games program for the Masters athletes, but was there ever a thought like, hey, let's try to make them do as many of the same workouts as the individuals? Because if you look at it from an affiliate standpoint, everybody does the same workout and it's either scaled up or scaled down for their ability, or is it just logistically not possible?
Logistically, that's really hard, especially when you start looking at like some of the odd stuff and some of the special situations and special things we put in place for the individuals. Scaling that all the way down to multiple divisions, all the divisions you guys have, would be very challenging. For years, I did program, and then I turned it over to some other members of the team, but I still oversaw it and gave much feedback to. I mean, I would like butcher some of the programming and chop it up to kind of suit what I wanted to see for you guys. So I did have a heavy hand in the final outcome of the programming for you guys. And honestly, part of my guiding philosophy with your programming was more towards core. Like, hey, like what we're doing with the game side, those guys are like, we're on the fringe sometimes. There's a lot of core, but there's a lot of fringe elements too. I think it was more important for me to keep you guys more traditional and more core, because kind of what you're talking to, the expression to the rest of the community. You guys are way more representative of the community at large than just the individual athletes. So you guys showing traditional and more core CrossFit was kind of very important to me.
Mm.
But really, the reason we couldn't mimic, I mean, what we do for the individuals is really fucking hard in terms of timeline. Now, there's how many of you guys at the games, when you guys are at the games, like literally hundreds.
Yeah.
And I don't think we could logistically even make that happen. And I also like, you know, the little nuance thing. I don't know, like when we had the teenagers, there was a few years where we put you guys on the main floor for one event, at least one event. But we didn't put the teens on the floor ever because we kind of felt like, hey, they got to earn the right, since you guys will never earn the right to compete on that floor because you're just past that age group. You know what I mean? And that's a fair statement. But the teenagers, their aspirations are to be on that floor in Madison where the individuals are. So we didn't put them on that floor for that reason, because they have to aspire to get there and they have a chance to get there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But you guys are just there's too many of you to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't believe they should be the same.
And I guess that brings up a good point. Again, I know there's a lot of the balls in the air, but has that ever been a thought to do it separately? Like, hey, because the individuals really, I mean, everyone goes there for the individuals. And I think, Heath, maybe you said or somebody else said that, like, we're just kind of like the sideshow afterthought. And it's always going to be that way because logistically it has to be a nightmare to manage all of that. Or is it easier to condense it all?
What do you mean when you say condense?
Like, just, hey, we're going to have it all this week anyway. And even though it's going to be a big pain in the ass because we got the teams and the masters, or would it be, you know, hey, we're going to do the age groups and the teams late at a different time?
All that stuff is being discussed.
Okay, cool.
For going forward.
Yeah.
All those options you're talking about, like, hey, maybe the age group should be separate from the whole event, right? Maybe they should have their own event. We're looking at all possibilities.
Yeah.
Now, going back to how we did it, you know, when we were first in Carson, when we were first in Carson, you guys were first, and then it was the individuals and teams. Then when we went to Madison, actually Greg kind of directed this. He wanted more of a festival feel than even it was before, so he wanted everything overlapped. So that's why we moved everyone. So basically, as a fan or spectator, you could go 5 different directions and see multiple different things. And that's why we went that route.
Okay, that makes sense. Here's a question. This is really for me. Do you view CrossFit as it is today as a legitimate sport? And on top of that, do you foresee a day when the setup will be similar to, like, you know, an NFL or basketball or baseball where you've got, you know, owners, players, and things like that?
Well, yeah, I do see it as a professional sport, but I also got to set some people's expectations correctly on all of this, because I hear the NFL, I hear the NBA, MLB comparisons made more often. Well, first of all, we're not a team sport, and even we're more like golf or tennis or some of those other things, tour sports like that, than we are MLB or NBA. Second of all, we've had this amazing growth and this amazing penetration in sport, in community, in fitness, in lifestyle. But everyone needs to remember, especially when you start comparing us to the NBA and MLB, those sports have like a century of history behind them. The MLB's been around, and NBA, those things have been around for decades upon decades upon decades, if not centuries.
Yeah.
And we've been around for 10 years. So every time I hear those comparisons, especially when it comes to like agents and monetary rights and operating, how we should conduct our league like their league, they're just different levels, you know? And those guys have, with all that experience and time underneath them, they've built foundations to have these huge mega deals, these huge TV deals. We're not there. Yeah. And you know what? Like, we'll get there someday, but it's going to take time and patience. And that time and patience is hard for especially current athletes to understand. in here because they all want it now, and they want all that benefit right now when they're in the game because they have a lifespan on them.
Right.
And, in 4 or 5 years, those athletes might be out of the mix, and there'll be a whole new group of athletes. So they want to try to capitalize on it as much as they can. I'm in a unique position because I'm not an athlete. I'm an organizer. So therefore, I can take a very smart long-term view at all of this and really recognize our current position. And I'm telling you, the MLB and the NBA comparisons are frankly ridiculous because those guys get billions of dollars from TV revenue and ad revenue and sponsorships. And we're not in that world, my friend. We are not making that kind of money right now.
Yeah.
Do I believe we can? Do I want us to? Of course. I'd be negligent if I said, no, I don't think we can ever get that. Of course I want us to aspire to that. But that's, years, if not decades down the road. And I could be proven wrong. It could be in a couple of years, but.
Do you think the current changes in CrossFit are going to lend to that separation of affiliate and sport? Or is it going to be something that's going to be more of a hindrance to the forward motion?
Well, so separation of affiliate and sport. I don't think I was talking on that in particular, but to answer that, well, I think the current changes are really good. I think, well, first of all, I'm not going to discredit anything. I'm not going to discredit Greg built this fucking thing, and that's amazing. And I think what he gave us all this platform. So I'm always going to acknowledge his contribution and the fact that he created this. That being said, yes, I'm excited about the new leadership and the new direction and a new look, right? Because a new ownership, new plan, they're going to take it in a different direction, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be negative or bad. I think it can be very good for everyone, very positive for affiliates and for the games, for the sport, for trainers. And someone like me, I feel like what's really important with my role, because Eric's keeping me closely involved, is to kind of fight for the things that need to be preserved. And a lot of that has to do with the affiliates and how the affiliates look. Some just want to keep paying $3,000 and have very little oversight from us, and we need to preserve that for them. Others want to be way more involved and have more. Sorry about that. Have more involvement and us. I don't want to say hand walking through the process, but just others want different levels of engagement, and that should be acknowledged and respected too, and given, and the opportunity for people to have more involvement with us in that regard. So there's some things I see with my role as not compromising some of the core stuff that's very important who we are going forward. But yeah, I'm absolutely excited about what Eric wants to do going forward and what can happen going forward with the sport, with the affiliates, with the community.
I have to say, as an owner, it's the communication. I've gotten more communication from you guys in the last 60 days than I have in the last 8 years. So it's
that wasn't even Eric. That was my team and us.
Yeah. Well, no, you talked about that like when you just got named the CEO. Like we're gonna have open, dialogue. We're gonna be talking, and honestly, Dave, it's been really refreshing as an owner, because there definitely were like in the last year or two, we're constantly like, what the fuck is going on? And,
but I will say, Eric's done an amazing job of he's been pounding the ground and on the phone and talking to so many people and visiting affiliate owners, athletes. He's very impressive in how much energy he has to get out there and talk and hear what people have to say. Yeah. So it's been cool to see him in action.
He was at the Train with Rich experience, and we've been talking to Rory McKern a lot through this whole process. And he called me and was like, hey, is there any way I can get 75 test kits down to Cookville? I'm like, well, when do you need them? It's like tomorrow. I'm like, oh shit. So I said, I can have my assistant drive him down, but you got to let him do the Train with Rich thing. He's like, oh yeah. So Austin gets there. He I think Eric was maybe one of the first person he tested, and then he's working out with them. And, I talked to him afterwards. I'm like, hey, are you having a good time? He's like, dude, I literally just worked out with the CrossFit CEO. This is crazy. And Austin's a young 20-year-old kid. So, so I got to ask Dave, because like you were such a huge part of, like, in my mind, expanding the open. You know, you kind of did these like elaborate, you know, announcements. And then like, not only did like those go away, but like you didn't even post about the open like 2 opens ago. Like, was that like you had to do that or you wanted to do that?
Damn, I figured everybody forgot about this phase. Let's just say the environment back then was a little different. And let's just say we had a different CEO too. It wasn't Greg at the time. Yeah, I was kind of, there was a point where I didn't want to do the open anymore, but I wanted it to come under my own choice and my own way of exiting out. And let's just say I didn't have that.
Okay, fair enough.
I didn't have that opportunity.
Okay, well, I get it. So talking about, you know, we kind of transitioned into the affiliate side of things. How do you feel in the last, I don't know, month or two? You know, we've seen this kind of like nice, I think in my mind, a positive swing. You know, it seems like you've been out and about talking to a lot of, have you still gotten some negative responses or for the most part, has it been positive?
Yeah, for sure. We still get a little bit of, there's still some negativity out there. But interestingly, through all of this, and this is when I've talked to some of the most vocal people out there, vocal on their platforms, some people had, you know, they've used words like everybody's de-affiliating, everybody's mad at you guys are gonna, this is all gonna crumble. But the reality was, especially after this first started and Greg made me the CEO, there was a lot of support we were getting. And, you know, you hear the terms like the vocal minority. Well, it kind of felt that way because the majority of stuff that was coming in was very supportive. There was a lot of affiliates that were supporting us and like, hey, we're not gonna, we see changes being made, so we're not gonna completely abandon the ship yet, and we're gonna try to go forward. So I feel like there was a good phase, and it's even better now, especially after the Eric stuff, where we were getting a lot of support and we were getting a lot of people on our side. Interestingly, at the same time that was happening, you had all these athletes who were like, I'm out. So, and frankly, I was like, so what? Like, I don't care. If you're out, fucking go. And you know what we'll do? We'll backfill. And I only say that because there was so much sentiment from affiliate owners and trainers that like, hey, we're going to give this a shot and we're going to go forward. I knew that like the athletes they didn't control the end state, the outcome. So what I mean by that is, hey, every single one of these athletes, these 30 and 30, could have pulled out of the games. And guess what? We would have been fucking fine. And we would have done great, and CrossFit will come back stronger. And this is what a lot of fucking people don't realize is, and CrossFit is so much bigger than any one of us. CrossFit is bigger than Greg Glassman. CrossFit is bigger than me. CrossFit is bigger than Matt Frazier. CrossFit is bigger than Rich Froning. And the moment you start thinking you're bigger than it, you're delusional. And I think some people feel like, well, and that's also why this thing was always going to work and always going to, I also believe had Eric not bought this, it would have been a little bumpy, but we would have come out strong on the other side. The program, the movement, it's all just so powerful and so big and so effective and does such good things to people that it's in a very good place.
It's also an incredibly dynamic organization in that it's still very grassroots. You know, I opened an affiliate 9 years ago with Tim where we were doing our MBAs. We're like, yeah, it's just a place for us to work out. You know, never in a million years would I imagine Tim would be going back to his 4th games.
Did he qualify this year?
He did, yeah, through the open.
Okay.
I'll send you a video of his first muscle up.
All right.
You know, the organization in and of itself is still very grassroots. And I think that speaks to our ability to kind of maneuver around things. You know, for us as an affiliate, there was a couple check marks that needed to happen for us to maintain our affiliation. And everything is pointing to yes, right? We renew in October, and everything is heading in that direction for us to continue our relationship with CrossFit. It's changed so many people's lives that we've come in contact with. We have damn close to 300 members right now. We got hit with when COVID kind of took us down a little bit, but we've had, you know, thousands of people walk through our doors and change their lives. So we want to continue doing that under CrossFit's name. But like I said, we had to have some serious things that needed to change, and they are. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's very cool. And Dave, I know there's some new initiatives like kind of rolling out. I mean, you know, is that something that your team's heading up? Is that a different part of the CrossFit HQ?
That was our team. We, a handful of things. Well, the first thing we did right away that was easy, low-hanging fruit, was just the communication thing, as you stated. We'd been horrible at it over the years, so increasing and ramping up communication was an easy win. It didn't take much effort to do that. Then we looked at the in-country community, essentially representatives. That program is something we did overseas, but it made sense to scale here in the U.S. And so therefore we decided to add that to the U.S. and we've slowly been rolling out the new representatives every week. And then the third thing we've done was just to give back to the communities, to give back to people who wouldn't essentially have opportunities to do something like this, was basically to do some level ones for in some areas where, yeah, people wouldn't have the opportunity to normally do something like that.
It's really cool.
That's something that's more true to who we are than just giving money or just supporting a foundation or just
knowledge is power, right? I mean, you know,
absolutely. Knowledge is power. And, you know, giving these kids a skill set to potentially take on and make a career out of, that's a powerful thing. And so I'm really proud of that. We're going to keep it going. And it's, again, it's, you know, giving money is kind of empty, but giving your time, that's powerful. Giving your time is strong.
Yeah.
And that's why it mattered to us.
Well, one thing the four of us, Jamie, Heath, and Eamon, we're working on. So when I first opened my affiliate, Dave, I mentioned I own and operate assisted livings. I opened it in my assisted living. And so I had bought this old 14-story hotel and I took the swimming pool out, and I had 100 members in this gym. It was right outside of the dining room. And I went to talk to all of the residents because, you know, all of them are older. And I said, hey, I'm just going to let you know, I'm working on getting a separation so you guys don't have to watch people working out every day. And they're like, we will revolt. We line up, because it was all glass. They would line up. They're like, there's half naked men and women working out. Like, what else, you know? So like literally it was when we moved the gym, I mean, they were just distraught. But one of my goals this whole time has been, I want to bring a CrossFit background wellness program, because I'm in assisted living. Most of my employees are not healthy. Like, most of them smoke, most of them are, don't eat good. And the same reason the residents that end up in my buildings are for those same reasons. And so Eamon and Jamie and Heath and myself have been working on something for like almost a year, where we're finally ready to roll it out to all of the employees first. But the end goal is then to bring it to the residents. And what we started to do is reach out, because I have these all throughout the country essentially. We've started to reach out to affiliate owners and say, hey, like, this is our plan. We need you to step in and help us, because we want them to come out to the communities and then eventually have the residents and the employees go to the gyms. But I was like one of the few people like, oh man, this health initiative is great because it really does fit my population. So my question to you is that gonna still be part of the, CrossFit going forward? I know that's
I think so, but not to the degree that maybe it just dominated our landscape.
Mm,
You know, like it was, if you look at the main page, that's all it was, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a happy
Medium.
middle ground for that, where there's balance. There's so many different areas within our community. You have an affiliate, that has young people, not just old people, and that's okay to highlight. Then you have an affiliate, and you have an affiliate that has a lot of games athletes, and that's okay to highlight. Like, I think all spectrums should be talked about, celebrated, and highlighted and then you have people who don't train at an affiliate. You have people who just train in their gym or their garage, and that's okay too. That's something that should be highlighted as much.
Did you program in something for the games with water jugs by chance?
No, it didn't. That's good.
I think that's a missed opportunity, truthfully.
We joked about that last year more than this year. I heard those jokes more at last year's games than this year's.
Do you think, with the change, because a lot of the sponsors, I guess, too, opted out, kind of when all the athletes are. Have you guys internally been talking with those guys, or is it up in the air because there's no vendors at the
Reebok
games?
one's hilarious because it's like, if you read what they said, they're out next year.
Yeah.
And that's when the contract's up.
Right.
So meaning they're still involved this year. Like the Reebok, they pulled a sleight of hand on everybody and everybody bought into it. They're still involved with the games this year. And they're still this title sponsor, and they're still going to supply athletes with uniforms. And so interestingly, Reebok, their statement was they weren't going to basically renew with us, but it gave the impression that they were out this year, which they're not. They're still involved, and they're going to finish out the contract. And I think honestly, I think they even said that, but it's like they kind of said it towards the end of it.
It's lost. Yeah, it got lost. It got lost in that message.
It got lost in the statement. The statement very much didn't insinuate or point towards that, but that's the reality of it. Rogue, they're still on. They're still involved. So then
I think opening it up to more than just like having an exclusivity with Reebok. You were talking earlier about like bringing more money to the sport. I just think that's a great opportunity to continue to bring money into the sport. Is you have brands that are going to compete now.
Oh, it's an open market. Yeah.
And you guys kind of did that last year, right? With, I think athletes could wear the shoes and stuff. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, because Dave, you mentioned it's like all these other sports have had like a century to kind of perfect that. And I think if you look back at even when I was a kid, the 80s and 90s, like you could only have like one brand of stuff in the NFL. And now, right now, you can have like 3 different gloves or different shoes or whatever.
Yeah, but the thing is, even if you look at the NFL, there's one uniform. It's Nike.
Right. No, you're right. You're right.
So, and that's the case with the NBA. That's the case with a lot of sports. The uniform is exclusive, and then footwear and accessories essentially is where they get some freedom.
Yeah. But like for us, like, we're buying shoes. I was cracking up that you customize your Fronings. And I did the very first Train with Rich experience, okay? And when it was open discussion, I asked him, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but he had his own shoe before. And it was like this like $250 like carbon fiber shoe. And he never wore it. Like, he always
Kevlar.
like, yeah, it's Kevlar. Like, I bought it and I was like, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. I was like, why don't you wear those shoes? And he's like, well, they're not very comfortable. He's like still wearing his like Nano 2s or something. And so I'm just curious if he's actually going to wear these shoes.
Yeah, I don't know. I imagine. I hope so.
They're pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
They're like
except for that strap, right?
Yeah, except for the strap. I took the strap off. I took the shoelaces off. I took a lot off. But here's what's funny. That's pretty consistent. I've even done that on my weightlifters. So I cut the Velcro strap off of. I've done it on one set of weightlifters. I've left it on others, but on one set I cut the strap off.
So are you
Here at the Moody House, we cut the cord. So the only thing you can find on our TV is Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything like that. So no ESPN, no sports. When are we going to be able to find CrossFit back on TV? Is that something that's
well? Even if you cut the cord, you still have the opportunity. All of those, like ESPN and everybody there. Did you say you cut Netflix too and all of that?
No, we still have Netflix. So we have the ability to get those
I mean, most of those still have OTT platforms. They still have ways that you can view their content online, essentially. So I think the big networks have evolved smartly to the changing market to where, yeah, a lot of people have cut cable and they don't have cable anymore, but those guys now offer internet versions to where you're able to see this stuff. Yeah, so Eric's made a priority of getting us back onto network TV, CBS, ESPN, somewhere. So hopefully we can pull that off this year and stream it still via our site or wherever we choose to.
You know, it's a weird sport because it's so much better in post-production, right? Like, I mean, all of us on here, I don't know about you did, but we've watched, you know, the Fittest and things like that, because the post-production value on those are so amazing, and they're able to hype it up because you know where they're at. And if you don't know what CrossFit is, I think you guys have done a fantastic job, because now it's like you got to move the barbell, or was the event last year where you had like 20 pull-up rigs set up or whatever, because aesthetically you can tell what's going on. But in the past, like that's what I hate watching the teams. It's like, I don't know what they're doing, and I know CrossFit pretty well. So does that ever come into your mind, like how it would look, or you don't care?
Yeah, absolutely, obviously. And I mean, I think we created that and perfected that. Exactly what you're describing. Every time we're creating workouts, we take a look at that. But there's some point to where, okay, you can't compromise the sport or the test for the viewership. Meaning, yeah, you know what? There's going to be a lot of times when there's a really good team event that's amazing for those athletes, but when a fan or spectator looks at it, it's not completely intuitive. And there's a balance with that, right? There's a give and take. You know, turn on the TV and watch a hockey game if you're not a hockey fan, and guess what? You're not going to know the rules. Turn on the TV and watch golf or tennis if you're not a golf or tennis fan, and you're going to have trouble knowing what's going on. And to a certain degree, there's some sort of buy-in that needs to happen. There's some understanding. Now, that being said, there are stuff where you could not at all know any of our sport, and the workouts are intuitive enough that where you can tell what's happening. But there's a balance to both. We can't compromise completely who we are just to make everything this perfect visual that the layman can see and understand what's happening.
Fair enough. Yeah. Eamon?
Yeah. So the past few weeks we've been doing these podcasts and announcing a workout. So the athletes and we usually announce it towards the end, so the athletes will have to sit through and listen to the whole thing.
Or they can just fast forward.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, some people might do that. First one we announced was the bar muscle up Echo bike. It was it's a couplet, 25 cal Echo bike, 10 bar muscle up, 4 rounds for time. I'm getting a lot of questions about time cap on that. What would you say for masters for time cap for that?
4 rounds of 25 calories on the Echo bike.
Yep. 10 bar muscle up.
So here's the thing about time cap. Time caps are an arbitrary creation that doesn't really reflect an athlete's ability most of the time, but reflects our constraints within a schedule. So meaning we put time caps in at the games, and some people time cap, and it doesn't mean that the guy is not capable of finishing it. It's that, hey, we need to move on. And some events I program to have, I want everybody to finish. And other events I program where I want 75% of the people to finish. And sometimes there's events where only a couple finish. You saw that more at regionals than you did necessarily at the games. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is, well, I was going to say don't worry about it, but in the open I have time caps. I don't know, just decide what your intent is. If your intent is to get a majority of people to finish, then increase the time cap. If your intent is to try to make a statement workout where only a few finish it, then you gotta compress the time cap, but you got to know, you don't want a time cap where nobody finishes, because then it's just an AMRAP. And I don't want to say it's over programmed, but you didn't want that to happen. So you have to have, it all depends on what your intent is.
Well, I'll tell you, to give you just the overview of it's 4 days, right? So Thursday, and CJ Martin actually of Invictus programmed this.
Oh, so we're talking about at your actual physical event.
Yeah, this is it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were talking about like on some online thing you guys are doing.
No, we're
No.
our physical event. So Thursday.
And same thing then. The question is, how many people do you want to finish? Do you want half the field? And that's how I look at it. Do I want half the field? Do I want 90% of the field? Or do I want 10% of the field to finish the workout? And once you figure that out, I then test the workout multiple times. And then I make the time cap based off of that. So if the workout takes 8 minutes and I want 90% of the field to finish, I'm going to put it at 9 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
And
So
then
I've noticed on your Instagram, you're pretty good at bar muscle up. So what would it take for you to do this workout for us?
a fucking miracle.
You're saying there's a chance.
I'm really bad at all those bikes, the assault bike or the echo bike. I never train on them. I don't keep one in my house. All I have at my house is a Concept 2 bike. I just like spinning.
Yeah.
So those bikes just take my soul away.
Same. Well, I think we're going to release a workout, but Dave, also just to give you a broad stroke of our competition, 4 days, Thursday, what we consider maybe like, originally it was going to be at my house. I've got like a mini Froning setup where I live on 3.5 acres. I have a 22-acre lake, and we originally wanted to do an open water swim and then a trail run. But with the older age groups, they're really concerned about the open water swim. A lot of reasons, because they can't train for it right now. But I really didn't want someone to die at my lake. So we moved it to a pool, which CJ's not real excited about because it's not as cool. But the second event I think is really neat. And I don't know that I've seen this before. It's a max snatch within 4 minutes, and then it's a mile time trial. So nobody runs together. Each athlete gets released. I can't remember. I think it's every 30 seconds.
It's every minute.
Every minute. Which I think is cool because a lot of times, you go to these competitions and all you gotta do is run faster than everybody else. And then you have, in the remaining time, you have to find another 1 rep max snatch. So,
2 snatches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one before and then the run. But CJ really wanted to do the time trial. That's going to be at the Tin Cap Stadium. It's a minor league baseball stadium. It's traditionally the #1 nicest minor league ballpark in the country. They're a Padres affiliate, actually.
How do they have you run every 30 seconds if you like? So are they having everybody start their snatch every 30 seconds?
Yeah, every minute.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Heath goes first and then a minute later Jamie goes, and then so everybody's going at the same rest time. Yeah, trust me, I had a hard time wrapping my brain around. And then the next 3 days are going to be at the convention center. So we were able to get. It's very similar to the old regional setup. So Rogue has stepped up and sponsored the event from the equipment side, and they've been awesome. They're providing us everything, and CJ did the programming. So we got a 10 rig set up. It's gonna be really cool. We're not gonna have. There's like no vendors, right? Like nobody can send the vendors, but everyone sent us like a ton of stuff. And I think Heath made the comment, whoever wins is going to need a truck to drive everything back because got some really cool, every company has stepped up, like you name it in the CrossFit world, except for Reebok actually, has stepped up and given us stuff. Yeah. And Reebok was the only one that didn't. And Whoop was originally supposed to be our title sponsor. And then, every athlete was going to wear a Whoop. They were going to track all the data. And then basically with all of the PGA Tour and all of this other stuff, they're just like, we're too busy. Like, we can't do it.
Really bogged down, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it stinks. But, I have to say, but for the most part, the community's really stepped up. It's been awesome. But as Eamon said, we release a workout. So I think we're going to release a workout. And then we'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next workout we're going to release is I call it Wrath of Fran because it's kind of the chunky part of Fran that nobody really likes. So it's 5 rounds for time of I forget if it starts with thrusters or chest to bars, but it's 15 and 15 for 5 rounds.
Whew. That's nasty.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah. You like that one, Heath?
Man, I sign off on it.
Yeah, so it's just with the masters athletes, one of the things we're trying to keep an eye on is the accumulation of volume over 4 days.
That's a lot of volume.
Yeah, I'd say. But you know, it is kind of like the back to your point about like programming for finishing. We're probably going to put an aggressive time cap on it because it will cut down on the volume and it will kind of get the people that need to finish finished.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And interestingly, with master's programming, you have to take into consideration how rapidly some of the ages separate. And like, there's a big difference with those higher divisions from like 35 to 39. I mean, those guys are basically game on. They'll do so much more than some of the later divisions.
Yeah. It's curious. I'll be interesting. You know, I've heard you kind of talk shit on some of the 35 to 39s because, you know, you kind of said like, hey, we created this division for these guys to have a platform and no one wants to do it. And let me tell you, it's the same for us. Like we tried to fill like the top 10, no one wanted to come. It's kind of like, we'll go to the games or
yeah, but
nothing.
you guys are in a unique position because I mean, you guys are still, you're not it. You know what I mean? Like you're not the game.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So you're coming at it from a different position where just because you're creating this doesn't mean you're like the official replacement. And so I can get why people wouldn't want to. But to go back to answer the question on ours, yeah, I mean, like it's ridiculous to me that some of these guys are essentially sponsored athletes in this sport and professional athletes in this sport, yet they have too much ego to compete in their division in the sport that they're professional athletes in.
Yeah.
And that baffles me. And we did put this in place to give them opportunities and give them the ability to continue to provide for themselves and to deliver for their sponsors. So, you know, take example, like I like to use Josh and Dan as an example. There's no reason why those guys shouldn't be competing in the 35 to 39-year-old division, other than just being too proud. And in Josh's case, I think that's what it is. He's a little too proud. I think he still thinks he can make it as an individual, which, like, I'm going to go back to the original statement. Father Time catches up with, especially as the field gets deeper with all these individual athletes, the amount of longevity you have in the sport diminishes. As more and more high-end, high-level competitors are starting at a young age, they're coming in at a young age really good. The ability to qualify and compete at a high level in the individual field into your 30s is really hard. I think the average age last year, the oldest person last year on the men's side, there was like one guy in the 30s. I think it was 31 or 32. On the women's side, it's a little different because the depth of field isn't there just yet. Meaning there's still a lot of, the competition has to come up a little more to where the top people are. The top people are here, but there's a bigger spread from everyone else. Where on the men's side, the top people are here, and then there's
men can't have babies yet either. I mean, that is a big fact. I mean, every professional sport, when you look at it, I mean, women have babies. I mean, and you know, like if you look at on the women's side, Dave, like you talk about older, like Sam Briggs, the one year that she couldn't make the games because she was hurt, she still competed as a master.
Yeah. I
mean, like that's cool. Like, I mean, she obviously has no ego and just wanted to compete, right?
Well, Rebecca Voigt did the same thing. I think she competed one year in Masters, didn't she? But she didn't make it. Yeah, and that's cool. Like that's the attitude and the spirit I'd like to see from a lot of these athletes who class up to 35 and on. Is like, hey, I'm this age, I'm really good, and you know, bravo to Urankar, right? Nick?
Yeah.
Bravo to him for doing it. Same to Neil Maddox, Kyle Kasperbauer. So these are all guys from another generation who were very good CrossFitters. In Kyle's case, podium. I don't think Nick or Neil ever made the podium. And then when they had the opportunity, they went to 35 to 39 and they represented well. And they weren't afraid to put their previous reputation on the line. Because, hey, here's the deal. When you do that, there are a lot of people that you never knew about who are really good.
Right.
So there's a lot of 35 to 39-year-olds in those divisions who would beat Dan Bailey and Josh Bridges right now, who were never Dan Bailey or Josh Bridges 6-7 years ago.
Right. Yeah. No,
there's a lot of people that beat Graham Holmberg.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. Same statement there. Did Graham ever class up and compete in the 35 to 39, or is
he hasn't made it?
He competed this year, but he hasn't, or maybe last year as well. He hasn't qualified.
Damn,
he was
that's
like,
crazy.
well,
That's
I think
crazy.
he had a really bad knee injury. He finished like 21st or something,
I
but
think so. Rich is 32 or 33. I forget how old he is. I'd really like to see what he chooses to do.
you know, I refer to Graham Holberg's like the Johnny Unitas of CrossFit, and I say that because he like won the games. I think it was like the last year before there was like a sizable check. Like I think he won like 50,000, and then like the next year, Rich won it was like 150 or 200,000.
Yeah.
You know, and like you mentioned it, Dave, like whatever they win now, probably in 10 years is going to be like chump change, right?
Yeah,
You know,
hopefully.
like maybe it's $1 million. Like when it's $1 million, you got people that are, because this is still the sport of hard work, like right.
When
Like
it's $1 million, then we gotta really increase the testing protocol. And I don't mean that in terms of like, I still think all our champions and a majority of our field is clean. Do I think our entire sport is clean? No, of course not. But I don't think it's as rampant as people want to. I see statements where like the whole field's juicing. That's just not true. We test so many people, and the money isn't there yet to have like Belko and some of these people who used to like take care of Barry Bonds with all this designer stuff that's not testable.
It's just ego if you're cheating at this point.
The money's just not there to support that stuff.
Do you, and you know, I do have a question about that. Do you feel like your restrictions or your sanctions that are handed down for failed drug testing are fair?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them. We're going to review them and we're going to take a look. The 4 years, basically.
Like there's a guy that tested positive, I think today in Major League Baseball. It's his like second or third failed test, and he got banned 80 games. Okay, now he's going to miss a ton of money and blah, blah, blah. But
because that's almost, you're creating a culture where it is kind of okay. And interestingly, in that sport, that's more athletics, where ours is not as much athletics, but ours is more physical capability. So like the steroids or the stuff you use in our sport really helps you. And I'm not saying it doesn't help you in baseball, but what I'm saying is it's having more strength and having more endurance or having more ability. The biggest reason to use it is recovery.
Right.
And having
100%.
the ability to recover between events, that's a huge advantage. The fact of the matter is in baseball, you can do that shit and your skill, it's still not going to make you a better.
Still got to hit a ball. Yeah, no, I get it.
You still got to hit the ball. You still got to throw the ball. In our sport, you do it, and it can give you a distinct advantage over the field because of recovery, strength.
I guess a better question would be, do you foresee in the future having standard definitions of a failed X would equal this? Because I don't think there, to my knowledge, you know, in the rule book, it basically says if you do whatever, we can do whatever. Do you ever foresee a thing saying if you test for this, you will have automatically this? Because I don't know, you guys decide, oh, they're getting 4 years, or is that just the automatic right now?
No, our team, we have a protocol and a system that we go through where they look at, you know, how it all went down, what they're taking, and to answer your question on the protocol, yeah, it's going to be reviewed and we're going to take a look at it and see what makes the most sense going forward. But I don't have a problem with these strict penalties because what's it do? It really sends a strong message, you know, like you don't want to do this and you definitely don't want to get caught doing it.
Right.
I've
got two more things for you. One's a question and one's a suggestion. My question is, have you ever thought of adding in some things that are more considered to be like athletic or ball sports? I follow you on Instagram. You can beat most people in basketball. You know, and I look back at like Jason Khalipa throwing a softball. Like, do you ever think about having more things like that? Or is the sport of fitness just evolved beyond that?
Well, so one way of looking at all of these guys are incredible athletes, and it's very athletic, and there's a ton of athleticism in doing a snatch, a clean and jerk, and a lot of the movements we do. And you take some traditional athletes and you ask them to do those movements, and they're going to struggle too. There's plenty of NFL, MLB, NBA players who could never squat snatch 135. I'm talking like legitimate squat snatch.
Yeah.
And why? Because they don't train that. And so you look at our sport, there's plenty of guys who can't shoot free throws or can't shoot 3-pointers. And why? Because they don't train that. And ultimately, is that a test of fitness? No, shooting a 3-pointer and shooting a free throw is not a test of fitness. There is athleticism in there. But what my point is with the snatch and the clean and jerk, we're testing athleticism through those movements. You have to be coordinated. You have to be athletic to do that stuff, especially at a high level, and especially when you start taking a look at all the especially when snatching 275 pounds to 300 pounds, and especially when snatching 135 for 30 reps in a fast, for time. So we're testing fitness. We're not testing athleticism per se, but a lot of the things we do test, you have to be athletic at.
I get it. I guess, and then a suggestion, or even maybe a question. But have you ever thought, or would you ever consider hosting like something at the games like a heptathlon? Because I feel like we get compared to track a lot, and that'd be kind of cool to see.
I don't know the events of a heptathlon. I do know the events roughly of a decathlon. And interestingly, a decathlon has 3 different disciplines: jumping, throwing, and running.
Running.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's really not that well-rounded. There's different, and I'm going to get hammered for saying that, but you're running different distances, you're throwing different objects, and you're jumping. Outside of that, and those guys are very fit and they're very well-rounded, but they're not the fittest in the world. They're great athletes.
They're not, but if you looked at Olympics and you wanted to pick like one thing to say, all right, this is most similar to CrossFit, it would be the decathlon, because you run a mile, you run 100, you do the high jump, you do the long jump, you throw a javelin, you throw a shot put. So you are finding that strength and speed balance. And I just always thought, man, that would be such a cool thing to watch, because
you look at, like, you're not testing strength. You're not testing strength at 1 rep max absolutes. You're not testing strength, over the course of 4 or 5 minutes. You're not testing mixed modalities combined together. You're testing all of those in isolation, which is totally fine and totally cool. It's the sport. It's their sport. So I don't mean to take anything away from it, but it's very different from what we're doing, obviously.
No, it is. My thought as a former track athlete and now a CrossFitter is like almost everybody knows what those things are. And if
not the heptathlon.
No, the movements of it though, because it's
everybody. What is a heptathlon?
Well, it's just half of the decathlon. Heptathlon. The heptathlon is normally for women. They don't do the decathlon, and then a heptathlon you also typically do that indoors because you just don't have as much space to work with.
What are the 5 events?
They are indoors. It's 60-meter dash. They're called 100. It's a mile. It's a shot put, a long jump, and a high jump, I believe.
Interestingly, when we do like let's say we were to do that at the games, I have to get off in a few minutes, but I'm going to answer this question. What's funny about that is what you really do is you're going to expose, like, so look how bad these guys are relative to the pros. I mean, and it's a lot of stuff our people never train, especially some of the throwing stuff. There's so much technique in shot put, the disc, and the javelin. And so if we did that, it would raise some interesting questions. Here's the thing. I'll do that if they do us.
Okay.
So send me the best decathlons or heptathletes in the
You
world.
guys invited the decathlon winner,
Yeah,
right?
we have. What was there was a kid 5 or 6 years ago all over Wheaties boxes and all over, he was really famous, forgot his name. But we invited him, and I think he said at the time, it was like, I'll come out for like $100,000. At the time, we were pretty small, so that wasn't going to happen. I imagine if we'd have asked him the past couple of years and he would have said that, Greg would have said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, they would have came out, they would get destroyed.
Yeah.
Because they don't train this stuff. They don't, like, they're very strong, they're very fast, they're very good at what they do, but there's so many things you have to be good at in CrossFit. And the crazy part is not knowing what you're going to do. They know the 10 events they're going to do. So you can program training around those 10 events, but ours is completely, and that's what's impressive about you guys and anyone who competes in this sport at the games level, is you have to prepare for anything and everything. And here's what's cool. So here's what's cool about what I give you. I give you consistency in that you know it's going to be CrossFit. So you know when you're preparing for the CrossFit Games, interestingly enough, that you don't have to prepare for a decathlon. And I think there's some security in that, you know, so like that we don't throw stuff like in.
Yeah.
If we did start throwing stuff in there, people's minds would explode. It's like, oh my God, now I got to start shooting free throws. Now I got to start
Train 10
throwing
times a day instead of
javelin.
7.
Like, where am I dedicating my time and my training to?
That's awesome. Well, hey, Dave, we know you got to get off here. I again wanted to extend the invite that we extended via email to you and Eric to come to pretty much the only live CrossFit event that might happen for the rest of the year. And we are talking with your team about making it a certified event. So
Cool. Very
a
cool.
licensed event, I guess is what it's called. So, but thanks for, being open and honest. And we really appreciate all the communication, especially as affiliate owners. And we hope that's going to be continued. And we wish you the best of luck putting the games together this year in any capacity. I think we'll all be, waiting with bated breath. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I had fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.